You too, what a do, man. How are y'all doing, guys? I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Coming into today's video, Thursday, it is currently February 12th, 2026. Coming into today, we're going to be breaking down not only a trade recap of a current 30-minute power of 3 shorts, how I was able to actually profit off of 180 points shorting NASDAQ today, but also putting entire and great emphasis on our higher time frames and how was I personally able to understand prior to even today opening how we were going to be delivering super aggressive towards sell side draws of the daily power of 3. So before we hop into today's video, if you guys aren't already coming from yesterday's video, I would highly suggest going to yesterday's video before breaking down today's video. But before we hop into today's recap, if you guys aren't already part of my 100% free Collectors Club Discord, that link will be in the description, where I constantly, every single week, put free Snowski outlooks, free weekly recaps, and a ton of information for you guys to utilize on the free side of my server that is super beneficial to understanding how am I personally looking at the markets. But of course, you guys are here for the trade recap and a breakdown of our higher time frame. So before we actually even go into the lower time frame fractal scale to look on why did I press the button today, let's actually put some good emphasis on our higher time frame. Yesterday's video was very important, and if you haven't covered that already before coming into today's video, let me catch you guys up. So yesterday I was breaking down the fundamentals and really the simplicity behind QT. Right, and the utilization of XAMD, AMDX on a weekly scale and not necessarily just the daily and fractal scales. And what is so important about utilizing not only monthly but weekly cycles is the utilization of this. If we understand that quarter one is what dictates the remaining quarters' fluctuations, the remaining quarters' volume and volatility in each given day's power of 3, well, we have to be utilizing that. Okay, we understood that Monday expanded, and after Q1 already initiates, we understand that, okay, if expansion happened on Monday, we know exactly what's going to happen the remaining 3 days and the volume of each of those days, right? Because you're basically stating that quarter one dictating that it was expansion is telling us, okay, if Monday expanded, Tuesday's going to accumulate, manipulate on Wednesday, and then distribute on Thursday. Within then Friday has usually a TGIF or a close to the weekly power of 3. So if we understood that in yesterday's video, which was currently our manipulation for the week, we understood that at high of the week we had not only a monthly cycle but a weekly cycle SSMT. If you guys are unfamiliar with QT terms, a weekly cycle SSMT is simply a cracking correlation or a SMT between our previous day high on any of the assets, meaning ES, YM, or NQ. So if you were to actually reference back to our triad, you would have actually seen that our very high of Wednesday took the stops of our previous day's high as YM failed to. So this SMT was very significant. Why? Specifically because it happened on a manipulation quarter, right? That was exactly what I was looking for. That was the exact confirmation that I was talking about in yesterday's video that I wanted to see to pretty much signify lower delivery. Now, understanding this, if we have manipulation and we understand manipulation quarters are always confirmed by external SSMTs or significant SMTs, right, which ICT calls cracking correlations, if we have a monthly cycle and a weekly cycle at high of the week, reference monthly cycle is going to be the validation for our true month opening price, which this week's was our weekly opening price. Not only TMO being validated by a monthly cycle put in very early in the market, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was Monday's opening price, but true week opening is a significant opening price. So true week opening, just like any power of 3, needs a cracking correlation to signify that that manipulation is complete. So weekly opening and true week opening being very significant opening prices, we wanted to see that weekly cycle, that day-to-day SMT or cracking correlation above true week opening to validate manipulations complete and initiate distribution. So when I was coming into today, understanding that yesterday already did the damage above true week opening for a manipulation quarter, understanding that, okay, we're coming into Thursday, a distribution quarter. What does that mean? If we understand the manipulation pivot is already in play, and we have clear draws on liquidity below us, such as our internal draw on liquidity and our external is the low of the week, and our internal was previous day low. If we have all these clear draws on price with a lack of protected stops, it is very clear signifying that coming into today's delivery, we already know our bias. We already know that we're expecting open, high, low, close for our daily development. So if your narrative is initially bearish based off of our weekly cycles, and then you come to the conclusion of understanding we're in distribution quarter for the week, distribution quarter for the week is telling you the volume is going to be aggressive. It's telling you low resistance liquidity runs on our higher time frames, which tells us expect spools, expect great volume lower. So what did I look for literally coming into our fractal 30-minute power of 3 today was something very, very simple. Is the understanding, okay, our weekly opening price, which was all the way down here on this line given down here, is a clear draw. Below weekly opening price has a significant amount of liquidity. So my clear draw for 30-minute power of 3 is, okay, I want to see open, high, manipulate high, internal cracking correlations such as an SMT, and then I want to see a lower delivery. And this is something I actually broke down in my free collectors club, is the pretty much utilization and different types of opening bell 30-minute power of 3s. And this is one of them. If pre-opening manipulates, pre-opening means before opening bell, manipulates for our daily power of 3 development, manipulation being confirmed by an external SSMT or SMT, opening bell will flush aggressively. So this is basically saying that one of the, I guess, assumption, I wouldn't say assumptions, it's behind personal data collection, but one of the ways of predetermining 30-minute power of 3's volume is simply looking at your pre-market analysis. If we understand our daily power of 3 is going to work in same reference to our weekly power of 3, right? Because we just stated our weekly power of 3 is going to distribute due to yesterday's manipulation, which was confirmed by an external SMT. Well, it's basically saying if we were to reference to our 15-minute chart, we want to see today manipulate pre-opening and confirm bearish runs. Now, coming into today, a lot of people were confused. There was no external SSMT. There was no DC. There was no weekly cycle, but there was a weekly cycle yesterday, which is telling you that today is going to be continuations, right? Hint to that. Continuations are days that play in reference to our prior day's damage. So coming into today's damage being distribution with clear internal and external draws on liquidity for our weekly power of 3, what was I looking for? Simply a 1 hour cracking correlation. If you were to reference to our 1 hour chart, now a lot of people don't understand what a swing divergence is. Swing divergences is a concept that I personally teach, but just the basis of it is a candle to candle SMT. So if you were to hover over the candle of 8, which would be the high of the day, you would have seen that this high of the day actually got turtle souped on 9 a.m.'s 1 hour candle coming into YM and ES. Due to these other correlated assets purging our previous candle, which is considered a swing divergence, this is simply a higher time frame 1 hour cracking correlation, moving of reference to our external weekly cycle SSMT that was put in during our manipulation, which happened opening bell. So this opening bell confirmation is telling you that, okay, we're moving in reference from yesterday's cracking correlation on the higher time frame. All we want to see coming into opening bell is simply an open manipulation high, which is our initial Judas, internal SMT, 1 minute change in state, short. That is as simple as it gets. So let's actually go here. What we're going to do is go and replay. And what we're going to do is we're going to delete all these things so you guys can get a good understanding of what I'm coming into here looking for. Get rid of this and put on a 30-minute power 3. There we go. So we could see at high of the day, YM running the stops of not only our previous 90-minute cycle high, but also our previous microcycle high is forming that, okay, we now have 2 internal SMTs. We have a 90-minute cycle and we have a microcycle SSMT. If you guys are unfamiliar with what QT SSMTs are, you guys can look up a simple video of what SSMTs are and learn that in the span of 5 minutes. Once you do that, come back to this video. A lot of that will make sense. But once we have those internal SSMTs, that 5 minute, that 1 minute Kraken correlation from yesterday's external weekly cycle SSMT, which was confirmed today by that 1 hour swing divergence, well, okay, where's our 30-minute opening? 30-minute opening is right here. If our 30-minute opening is right here, we opened, manipulated higher, manipulation confirmed by internal Kraken correlations to fall in reference to our higher time frame expected bearish distribution, right? Remember, our volume is expected to be lower today due to high time frame distribution. 90-minute micro. The second those Kraken correlations are happen, we are immediately looking for the last bullish candle that was confirmed from taking liquidity, which if you reference to YM, once those SSMTs were put into play, this 940 candle was our very last bullish candle that purged liquidity and formed the SSMTs. So this was our change in state. What are you waiting for? A close beneath it. Bam. And that is where you're shorting. So buy. What we're going to do, sell, stops at that high. Either you can have stops at a high at the 30-minute opening, or you can have stops if you want to be safe at the microcycle highest high in validation of a microcycle. Where's your TP? Well, our TP is referencing to our weekly opening, right? Due to weekly opening being a clear draw on price, which is right down here. Now let's see if that plays out. And bang. Beautiful. Just beautiful textbook 30-minute power of 3. It can't get better than that. Open, manipulation high, internal SSMTs, expand lower. Now, what's to say that we didn't have different scenarios? And what other scenarios do I also talk about that I actually just released in Snowski Outlooks today is the understanding of fractal power of threes being not only if pre-opening manipulates for our daily power of 3 development, meaning an external SSMT or SMT, opening bell will flush aggressively, which is exactly what we did due to yesterday's weekly cycle, but if pre-opening doesn't manipulate, meaning if we're coming into our opening and our daily quarter hasn't put in a daily manipulation yet, it's telling us that our opening bell will either opening and immediately Judas meaning manipulate for our 30-minute power of 3, and that is where we will expect decoupling with YM. This decoupling with YM is going to signify that distribution for a 30-minute power of 3 is going to initiate and expand into our 4-hour 10 a.m. power of 3. Now, decoupling is simply a concept that ICT teaches a lot. It is the study that our correlated assets become decorrelated, if that's even a word, meaning if we're expecting lower delivery, we want to see YM go opposing. This opposing run on YM is going to form bearish Kraken correlations, which tends to happen opening bell if prior opening bell hasn't put in a signified manipulation. Now, obviously, there are also some times when we will stall till PM session for time distortion volume. Very unlikely. It tends to happen more on accumulation quarters, but I wouldn't worry about that. That doesn't tend to happen a lot. So what does this mean now that we've officially completed our weekly power of 3 distribution? What am I expecting coming into the pretty much remaining of our weekly power of 3? What we're going to do is we're going to reference back to our higher time frame. We're going to go back so we can pull up all of our, there we go. Here we go. Pull up. There we go. Okay, so now thinking of simply weekly power of 3, we need to reference to the fact that, okay, we just expanded super aggressively today. So if you're thinking of power of 3s, you're thinking of open, manipulate high, and distribute lower. What does that mean coming into the remaining days ahead? Which days plural? It's simply Friday. I apologize. What does this mean for Friday's TGIF or Friday's expansion? Is we are very likely, once draw was already met, which our external draw was the low of the week, to have a slight expansion. So all I want you guys to do is, coming into tomorrow, I want you guys to, in reference not only today's range, but the entire weekly range, I want you guys to have in reference our quarter, our EQ, and our 3/4. Now, 3/4 being OTE and EQ are a little less likely to happen due to TGIF being more of a 20-30% retracement type of range. But all I want you guys to understand is that this very low that we purged, creating this entire market structure shift aligning with EQ of the weekly range, is considered a bearish breaker. So this bearish breaker, on top of the fact of EQ being, well, a very expanded range, if we're expecting lower volume, we want to rebalance this pretty much invalidated range and expand lower. So all I want you guys to expect coming into tomorrow is, if we do have some type of structure shift, maybe a bullish weekly cycle at the low of the day, or bullish DC to validate TDO or daily opening, expect a possible retrace back up into this weekly range. That is as simple as I wanted to break it. I don't want to overcomplicate it for you guys, but the utilization of XAMD AMDX is a game changer. If you guys aren't already using this information as XAMD AMDX with the understanding of Po3, time and price theory, please do that. I teach it in hundreds and hundreds of content on my page. But guys, I'm going to be ending this video here. Coming into tomorrow, if we do have a lovely trade recap, we're going to be breaking that down. Oh, and I totally forgot. If you guys actually want to see the trade that I took on today's Power of 3, as obviously I just broke it down, so it's irrelevant to go back, you guys can reference to my social medias. I posted all of that information on my social medias, how I shorted the entire market, catching 100 handles on 5 micros, which was 1,800 on per account today. Very beautiful trade. I apologize for that. You guys can reference to my social media pages, but I'm going to be ending this here. I will probably likely see you guys tomorrow for an additional trade recap and breaking down what Friday did. But until then, I hope you guys have a wonderful week and a wonderful day coming into tomorrow. And as always, I'll see you lads at the top. Peace.